Dredge is an excellent example, especially in indie games, of how you build tension into the core of a game's design. It's a masterpiece in creating dread within its players. But the question is, how does it go about doing that? Instead of using jump scares like a lot of indie games do to create the tension and horror feeling in Dredge, they use their setting along with their sound and world design and the day and night cycle mechanics to create this tension-filled atmosphere that surrounds the player. From the first moment you load up Dredge, the setting takes you to a place of uncomfortableness. Starting in a small bay between two islands, you can see the wide expanses of the ocean around you with very few islands in sight. It's these wide expanses that start that creeping tension of the game. It's not the automatic tension you get of something like Outlast or Resident Evil where something's trying to kill me. It's actually this really slow tension with the feeling of something is not quite right here. There's just something that's off about these islands and the people that live here. And this feeling is increased by the world's actual design. The main way that Dredge creates tension is through its designs. I'm mostly talking about its world design and sound design. Dredge's level design is a small, entirely open world with no loading screens, at least from what I've experienced so far, other than, when you load up the game. There are large expanses of ocean between the 5 different sets of islands with smaller islands in between that you can go to for a quick look around and maybe a little bit of fishing, but that's about it. So how does this world design create tension within the player? Because there are such large expanses of ocean between the different sets of islands, if you leave too late in the day or your engines aren't powerful enough, you'll be caught in the middle of the ocean at night, which is very dangerous. Not knowing if your boat is powerful enough to make it to the place you're trying to get to before the night starts can amplify the game's tension really well. Then you also have the sound design, which really amps up that tension. Most of the time, Dredge's sound design is ambient. It's just the sound of the boat engine, the water, or whatever you're doing, whether it's fishing or dredging up something from the bottom of the ocean. There are little musical kicks in there, but most of the time, it is ambient noise. And it's this silence when you're on the water that amplifies that tension. There's a reason in horror movies, a lot of the time, there's a subtle soundtrack in the background, or there's no soundtrack. Except for the big scenes. This increases the suspense and tension within the movie that's exactly the same as what Dredge does with its sound design. It increases that tension through silence. While Dredge's designs are really good at building tension during the day, its day-night cycle mechanics make the tension skyrocket. Night in Dredge is the most dangerous time to be on the water. If your boat isn't fast enough to outrun things, or you're stuck in the middle of the ocean with no safe harbor around, you're going to be attacked and you might be sunk. Whether it's the fog that cuts down your vision so you run into rocks, or it's one of the angler abyssal fish that looks like a boat, the night's goal is to sink you before you make it to a dock. The day and night mechanics skyrocket the tension within the game because it forces players to be on a timer. When you have a timer clicking down all the time, it makes you hyper aware of that limit and more apprehensive about doing things. Can I make it from the Marrows to the Gale Cliffs before night hits? That amplifies the tension because you have to actually limit your movements and know exactly how far you can get in that time span. There are ways to relieve this kind of tension, better engines, stronger lights, stuff like that, but it never truly goes away within the game. The tension is always there, and it's always kind of gnawing at you in just like the back of your mind. And these are the reasons why I think Dredge is one of the best examples from indie games of using its core designs to create tension for the player, instead of using some kind of cheap jump scare or other tactics that you always see within horror indie games to try and create that tension or suspense or horror feeling. Now I pose the question to you, have you played Dredge? What do you think of the game? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and maybe subscribe if you did enjoy the video and you want to see more videos like this. And I hope you have a royal day.